Hey guys, welcome back to Planet Tyro. I'm your host, One. I'm just sitting back relaxing because I've listened to a really fun, enjoyable book. Now, this book series has been celebrated for a while, came out in 2011, and before we get into it, I do want to say, at the moment, it's kind of notable for Steven Spielberg is trying to adapt this book into a movie. He's trying very hard, he's been trying for a while, man. But after we speak about it, after reading it, I know why he's having such a hard time. It's gonna cost a lot of fucking money to make this a movie, and I would love to see it, but we'll get more on that after we speak about the book. Stay tuned.
Tyro Media.
Okay guys, we're talking about Ready Player One. Ready Player One is a 2011 science fiction book. Okay, it's a science fiction book about, it's set in, let's say this world. In the year 2050, the whole world is obsessed with this computer game software. It started off as a computer game, but it's evolved into this world software. And it was created by these two guys that are kind of parallel to Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the way the story's going. Basically, these two were game developers in this universe, and they became very world renowned for making the first inter virtual reality online multiplayer game that was successful, that was very realistic, and the whole world has just become so obsessed with this virtual reality world that it became more than a game, it became a lifestyle, and the whole world is integrated into this game to the fact where it's even hurting the earth. Actually, that's how much people are obsessed with the game, and there's a social disconnect. And the main story is the main programmer for the game, who again is pretty much kind of like Steve Wozniak. When he dies, in his last will, he lets off a giant treasure hunt, because he says, in this virtual reality, I've created an Easter egg, and whoever finds my Easter egg somewhere in this world is going to inherit my whole empire of billions of dollars, all my name brand, come into the company, blah 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 blah. So the main character is a young poor boy who is obsessed, who's really obsessed with pop culture, and most of the world's obsessed with pop culture, because the two guys that made this computeristic world, they've become like world icons, and now everything they like, it seems like the whole world is into what they like. The computer games, the pop culture, it seems like this whole world is thrown back into the 80s, because that's what these two guys liked, that's what these two guys have made. So in the year 2050, the whole world's obsessed with the 80s, and when I read the reviews for the book, I remember people saying that it's too pandering, that this book is too pandering on nerd culture, on pop culture, and on the 80s, because that's what this game creators made. But I found it more of a celebration of pop culture, of nerd culture, of comic books, of anime, rather than pandering. It was done, don't get me wrong, it can be very nerdish to an extent, but it feels organic to what the story's being. So the main character, he's trying to win this competition, he's trying to find the Easter egg. He's okay. He's a young, I think he's like, what is he, 15, 16? And I like the future this world is set in. It's really cool. And we can see, as things are going right now, we're getting to that future. But this book is centered so much on nerd culture. That's the fun part of the book. If you're into comic books, if you're into cartoons, if you're into nerdy things, there's so many references here you're gonna love. But to the author's credit, he wrote the book in a way where even if you're not interested in it, there's some entry-level stuff that isn't so reference-based that you feel like you don't get it. It's really enjoyable, and obviously because I do know these things, I can pick up these references. I found it very, very, very enjoyable. The story on the whole, it is very young adult. It doesn't get too complex, and the adventure side is pretty nice. And like I said, the futuristicness with the technology and the pop culture references was all good, all fine. There's only four main characters we follow per se, and The main character might have been a bit too goody two shoes for my liking. I would have made him more of an anti-hero, but that's me, who reads a lot of dark fantasy stuff. But the book is very enjoyable on a superficial level. It isn't really that deep, and I can't wait to see Steven Spielberg bring this into live action. But the references in this book to it's like Wreck-It Ralph, where it had all those computer game references. This book takes references to a whole nother level, and that's why Steven Spielberg is having such a hard time adapting this movie, because he has to pay out Nintendo, every kind of company, and I can't even imagine what he has to pay. But if he made this book into a movie, it really would be the magnum opus for Steven Spielberg, and I'm rooting for him to make this movie, because when I was reading this book, as the book went on and as we got to the climax, it became very exciting. There was a lot of anime references. I wasn't even expecting that much anime references. I was getting so hyped up. It's such an enjoyable, fun book. But it's a young adult book, so don't expect anything too complex. And it's been highly praised. And I was a little bit skeptical that maybe this was being overhyped, but I felt like this was catered towards someone like me who's into pop culture, into nerd culture, into anime, manga, comic books, and all that stuff. What Planet Tyro is about. So if you like Planet Tyro, if you like nerd culture, you're most likely going to like this book. And as a result, for what this book is, I'm going to give it a first class. This was highly enjoyable. The audiobook was fun. The voice acting was fun. You know, the only criticism I'm going to give to the book is, you know, fanboys for, let's say, comics, they can have a fanboy can have a knowledge for something so in depth it can put you off. Now, in the story, the characters, not only do they have a ridiculous amount of knowledge for their own niches, they know. I found it hard to believe they will know so much about movies, music, comic books, games. It's like they were fucking computers. I'm like, look, I don't care how much of a fanboy you are. There is no way you're going to be able to memorize every line of a bloody movie, every mannerism, every line of a game. That's the only bit I was like, how the fuck? Even if your whole life was about just being a nerd, there is no goddamn way, unless you're a goddamn android, you're going to remember all of this. It's not really a criticism. It just took me out of the book a little bit. There's no goddamn way they're going to remember all this. But it's a world of nerds, so it was another interesting element. But for me, it's just slightly like, I don't believe that even the main character is gonna know all this shit. No fucking way. But hey, who knows? In the future, this future could happen. This could happen. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's amusing. Let me just leave it at that. It's amusing. But guys, Ready Player One is a book that everyone's already read. Most people love it, but I'm gonna give it my seal of approval. Check it out. And if you've read Ready Player One, let me know in the comments down below. It was a fun read, and I'm going to say it again, I am rooting for Steven Spielberg to make this into a movie. He's the right director. If he can get the rights, if he can pay that money, it's going to be great. If this movie gets half-assed, it's going to be no good. I'm going to tell you that. Do all or do nothing. That's my thoughts on the movie adaptation of this series. But let's leave it at that, guys. I want to say thanks for watching. If you can see the annotation on the right, you can see we do all sorts of media reviews and discussions for anime, books, TV shows, what have you. And if this is your first time to the channel, I do want to say welcome to the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you want more content on your YouTube feed. We'd appreciate if you stick around, because we do like to have people interact with us on the channel and become a subscriber. But until then, we hope you stick around and stay tuned to Planet Tower for more goodness. And until then, take care, people. Peace.